We're going to walk from Ladbroke station here to Westbourne Park, the next station along the Hammersmith and City. And as we do so, we're going to tour the streets with local historian and film buff Roger Rogowski. But before we get there, we have to deal with the elephant in the room. The area we're about to walk has traditionally been called North Kensington and Kensal Town. But the name Notting Hill is creeping ever further north. And some of the reason for this can be attributed to the film Notting Hill. We can easily take a quick detour from Ladbroke station to the bookshop featured in the film. The ongoing gentrification of Notting Hill has done wonders for local estate agents. Previously this was a very vibrant working class area. It's obviously not the fault of the film or of Richard Curtis. It's beautifully shot and shows an idealised version of the area. People have flocked here, looked at the coloured houses, bought overpriced tat from Portobello Road Market. London becomes ever blander with its coffee shops and disappearing pubs.
Now, back to Ladbroke Grove station, and we'll head north to the former junction of Ladbroke Grove and Portobello Road. The junction was blocked off in the 1960s, but you can still stand on the spot. I joined a walking group of North Kensington and Kensal Town film locations led by Roger Rogowski.
You're looking down on the railway bridge and you've got Octavia House here on the right hand side, which is in Southern Row. And this is the car chase scene from the Lavender Hill Mob. Now the interesting thing about the car chase scene, and in fact about another scene, that the scene by the canal in Paddington, which was also in this film, were also used in the Blue Lamp. Ealing Studios decided to be a bit economic with their film and use them twice. So if you watch Lavender Hill Mob, then watch Blue Lamp, look up and you'll see really the same scenes again, recycled. The car chase scenes that you see along Ladbroke Grove, Harrow Road, Bramley Road and Latimer Road are actually the same. Differences in the Lavender Hill Mob, you'll remember two police cars collide outside Bramley Arms at the junction of Preston Road and Bramley Road, and there's a little comedy scene where the two police car radio aerials wrap around each other. One of the last ones now.
Quite a few of my family and I went to school with Michael Keaton-Jones.
Oh, really?
Wow. Used to get them back.
So, you are standing exactly where Harry Fowler stood in 1951. So they were making the film in 51, weren't they? So here he is. This is another production shot. Harry Fowler's talking to Lawrence Harvey there. He's got the hat on. You're looking across the road here. That was the site of a pub on the other corner, the Forester's Arms. And here is Harry Fowler actually, who has been lured into helping with a robbery of a truck from Portobello Dock, which is just up that road. And he's trying to, gets cold feet, and he's trying to pull out of it just here. Southern Row, looking at a scene from Steptoe and Son, the 1972 film. Here is Harold driving his cart along Southern Row. In this film, Harold falls in love with a stripper, Caroline Seymour, who he met in the Cobden Club, which which was in Kensal Road, and they get married in St John's Church in Ladbroke Grove. In the TV series, their yard in Oil Drum Lane was actually a breaker's yard in Norland Gardens, and then they moved it to Stable Way in Latimer Road. But for the TV film, their yard is in Adela Street, which is one of the little short cul-de-sacs off Kensal Road leading down to the Grand Union Canal. So you might like to have a look at that. In that film you'll see that Davis the Cleaners, which used to be a huge building on this side of the road, has been demolished, and they haven't quite got round to building those flats yet. Okay, so we're standing more or less on the spot where this was taken, and I've actually chosen a production photo this time so you can see the filming taken place. And I'd like to think that I am in that crowd on the right hand side, because I remember this being filmed very vividly and coming out every night to watch it after school. Actually, this is a TV play called The Crunch, made in 1964, and the plot is very similar to another film filmed in the area, 7 Days to Noon. A staff member of a London embassy of a former British colony threatens to set off an atom bomb that he's smuggled into the embassy unless the British government agrees to pay reparations to the former colony. And it could have done, absolutely. It's a very contemporary theme, actually, isn't it? And I often say that this is my proof that these houses were very attractive, with a lot of very ornate features on them, to the extent that the film producers thought that one of the houses would pass as a London embassy, much like the embassies that exist in South Kensington and off Kensington High Street.
Did you live in one of those houses?
I didn't. I lived in Kensal Road, which is roughly in Meanwhile Gardens now.
Right.
Just pretty much at the base of Trellick Tower. The next one, really, strictly speaking, isn't a location, but I had to include it. That may or may not mean something to some people. This is the Telegoons, the TV spin-off of the famous radio show, The Goon Show. The Telegoons only ran for 12 episodes. They were all filmed in 1963 on the first floor of a building that used to stand on that site there, just behind me, at number 208 Kensal Road. It was filmed by Grosvenor Films, and it was the on-the-spot lighting equipment building at the time. One episode of the Telegoons was called The Canal, and this is a scene from the canal, and was almost certainly inspired by the very nearby Grand Union, which was a really grim stretch of water back in the post-war period. You really didn't want to go anywhere near the canal, as one of the characters famously said in this episode. The on-the-spot building was demolished in the 1990s, and you can watch this very episode of the Telegoons, and it's on YouTube, by the way. We've got Lawrence Harvey, who sadly has got his back to you and Joan Collins. They're in a 1952 film called I Believe in You, which has probably got the most street scenes of featuring West End I think I've ever seen, actually. It's a film full of young up-and-coming stars, and Lawrence Harvey and Joan Collins were up-and-coming then. There's also a young Harry Fowler in the film, and there are some established 40s and 50s stars as well, like Basil Dearden in it too, and Celia Johnson. And in this scene, Lawrence Harvey, Joan Collins' ex-boyfriend, accosts her, kisses her passionately on Haley Steps, and tries to persuade her to dump Harry Fowler and go back to him, which actually he does succeed in doing. That was always a workshop. I think they just changed their name. Yeah, they're making furniture. But that's a brilliant place for food. Okay, so you recognise all of that in the background. I don't think that's really changed very much, and there's probably a very good reason for that. This is a scene from a film that was only shot in 1981 called Burning an Illusion, and Trellick, where we're standing outside, features quite a lot in the film. Cassie McFarlane, who was in quite a lot of TV programmes around that time, Silent Witness, The Bill, Tales of the Unexpected, Blind Justice, lives in Trellick Tower with her lazy and demanding boyfriend, Victor Romero Evans, who again was another fairly big TV actor. Certainly at that time, he was in Holby City, Doctors, and Judge John Dredd. Eventually, she throws him out to try and find a better life. So this is what the row of houses did look like just before demolition, although that nightclub needs a little bit of explanation. That nightclub isn't actually real. This is a scene from a 1968 film called Bedazzled, starring Peter Cook and Dudley Moore. Dudley Moore is disillusioned with life and is tricked by the devil, Peter Cook, into selling his soul in return for 3 wishes. Fairly close to the start of the film, Peter Cook wants to prove that he really is the devil, so he transports him to Southam Street and to his earthly headquarters, which is this nightclub surrounded by half-demolished streets, because actually the mass demolition of this area was taking place around that time. And Dudley Moore famously asks Peter Cook, "Are we in hell?" And Peter Cook says, "No, it's just my headquarters on Earth." I don't think there's a better photograph that shows how much the landscape's changed since the mass demolition of the late 60s. So this road, which was Elkstone, is now Elkstone Road. Used to be Kensal Road and used to follow the line of the canal rather than going inland, or not inland, but closer to the railway. Would have come approximately through here. We might even be standing in the middle of the old Kensal Road. This is a scene from a 1958 film called Violent Moment. Ladbroke is the main actor in this, who also starred in Reach for the Sky. He's a deserter from the army who strangles his girlfriend in a flat that they lived in Medina Street, which was a cul-de-sac which used to run from about here down to the canal leading off Kensal Road. Why does he strangle her? Well, he comes home, manages to escape from the army, finds his way home, and she tells him that she's had their son adopted, and he was very, very devoted to his son. But he thinks he's got away with it. He turns his life around, becomes a successful businessman, but his past and his obsession really for his lost son continue to haunt him. Here he is driving along Kensal Road some years after the murder to look at the scene of the crime in his MGTC. So he's really driving in that direction along here. Okay, here's the next one. We're not exactly on the spot. Ideally we should be over there, but it's a little bit narrow. So we should be more leading up to the bridge. This is a scene from a 1971 cult film called Duffer, in which a vulnerable teenage boy, Kit Gleave, who actually gave up acting, became a painter and author of children's books later on in his life, is torn between two relationships, one with a kindly older prostitute and one with an older sadistic man. So it's quite a disturbing film. He wanders the streets alone. He's a bit of a disconnected boy. Wanders around Shrewsbury Road, Talbot Road, Westbourne Park Road, Tavistock Crescent. Here he is on Carlton Bridge, and you may be able to make out the old Isolde's cinema in the background, which was replaced some time ago by flats. Notting Hill Gate also features in the film. So I'll pass that round. That bridge also features in a 1959 film called Sapphire. This one, I'm sure you might all recognise this one. This is a scene from Withnail and I, the 1987 film starring Richard E. Grant and Paul McGann. They're two self-confessed layabouts, and here they are running away after being threatened in what used to be the Tavistock Arms or the Frog and Firkin, running over the same bridge. Not this bridge, this is a new one, the same bridge that also featured in Violent Moment and Duffer. Later on, Richard E. Grant's Uncle Monty, actor Richard Griffiths, offers them his home in the country, which turns out to be a near-derelict farmhouse in Cumbria. On their drive up to Cumbria, they drive there in their battered old Jaguar Mark II, and they drive along Latimer Road and Kilburn Park Road, so that's another film to look out for local scenes. Actually, this isn't a bad spot for this one, and it's reasonably wide, so we're not causing an obstruction. Okay, here's Westbourne Park Station as it used to look in 1950. Pretty much the same, but with a canopy over the entrance. This is a scene from 7 Days to Noon, a 1950 film, and in this one a nuclear scientist, Barry Jones, who also starred in The Heroes of Telemark, 39 Steps, War and Peace and Brigadoon, demands that the government scrap its nuclear arsenal, otherwise he will destroy London with a stolen atom bomb. He hides out in a room in Westbourne Park Villas, which is just over there going towards Royal Oak. Interesting enough, in the film he walks down that alleyway there that used to be open to the public, as if he's walking to Tavistock Crescent.